welcome to Kalia's Playbook, where we talk to athletes about their careers, life after college, the lessons they learned along the way, and so much more. Welcoming into the show for the first time, first episode, is St. Louis native, former Miss Missouri basketball recipient, ninth leading scorer in DePaul women's basketball history, as well as former Texas women's basketball player, Sonya Morris. Sonya, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
So I want to start off with your high school career because you were balling in high
Mhm.
school, considering where, where you were able to go afterwards. Obviously, I already said that you were the Miss Missouri Basketball Award recipient. You were averaging 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. And you also helped your team to 3 state titles, which is insane. So tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about the work that you were putting in high school. What did your everyday regimen look like to get to the goal of getting a D1 scholarship?
So I think um, the missing piece to the puzzle was always work outside of practice. So my high school coach, Dan Rolfus, we always had intense practices, high intensity, high competition, just, ultra competitive practices. But it was the work that I put in outside of practice with my dad, getting up extra shots, getting in extra better shape, doing agility drills, doing all the things that, we kind of don't want to do, the intangibles that you can't necessarily see on the court. So I think to this day, that's still my regimen, my routine. Every single day, every single time I'm in the gym, I'm putting in extra work outside of what's required. So, mhm.
And I mean, being able to do that at such a young age and kind of just like see what that was going to build upon to get you to that next level. And I know we're going to touch on it a little bit again once we get to DePaul and Texas talk, but that's clearly been your regimen for years now since a
Mhm.
young high schooler. But just kind of what did your recruitment process look like? Who was coming up being like, hey, you should come here? And what ultimately led to the decision of going to DePaul?
So recruiting, it was so nerve wracking. I did not like it. Um, it was so overwhelming. It was a ton of coaches, and the conversations that the coaches would have, it was always selling a dream, always, what I wanted to hear as a player. Oh, you'll come in and start, you'll come in and do this and do that. And so I think with DePaul, when I took my visit there, I instantly felt that family environment, that connection with the players and the coaches. And I've always been on a team where me and my teammates were close. I was close with the coaches. So when I got to DePaul, it was like it was just a no brainer. I committed on my visit. I committed in the office with Doug, and um, I just think, like I said, it was overwhelming. So to be able to step into DePaul and just instantly feel like I belong there, it was a no brainer for me.
I mean, obviously, I had the privilege of working with you, our connection of me being the manager for 2 years.
Hmm.
So obviously, I know you and Doug closely during that time. So I'm very curious to know what was Doug's pitch to you, because obviously he's had so much success at DePaul over the years. And I mean, he definitely is somebody that's going to be honest with you at the very
Right,
least. So what was his pitch to go to DePaul?
right. The work ethic. He basically said, "You're coming here to work. I don't care how good you are, how talented you are. We are here to work." So that he said he was going to be hard on me. He wasn't going to take it easy. And I always want coaches to be hard on me because I know you care. If coaches don't get on you, they don't really care that much. So it was that. It was the help and assistance that I would have transitioning into college from AAA with Terry Sullivan and the academic help that, we received as players. And then, like I said, it was a lot of the player impact too. I got to spend personal, individual time with the players without the coaches being there. So I got to see the real them. They told me even things that the coaches won't necessarily broadcast, but they told me, oh, yeah, Doug, he'll have his days, where he's getting on you and he's on you and he's on you. But ultimately, it's going to make you better. So I think if I had to pick one selling pitch, it was the success of the program. And the demands that it took to maintain that success. It wasn't successful just because we're DePaul. No, it was the work that we put in over years and years and years. So I just knew Doug. I trusted him. Like you say, he was completely transparent, honest, and he just honestly felt like some long lost father figure that I had.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about your relationship with Doug because you said it yourself. I've seen it. You've experienced it firsthand. It's a tough love sort of relationship. He's going to
Mhm.
get on you, but at the end of the day, he wants what's best for you. So, what was your relationship with him like? And was it kind of difficult in that transition period of, being a high schooler to all of a sudden being in these like really intense practices?
Mhm. It was just that. He literally, and I think all the freshmen, he basically took us by the hand step by step. And I think he really took pride in how he cared for his players. It wasn't just about basketball. Of course, he wants us to produce, he wants us to show up and do our best. But I can tell that he cared about me as a person when I would go through stuff with my family at home or losses or disappointments. Even if I had a bad game, I knew Doug was always going to keep it real. So he wasn't just going to tell me what I wanted to hear, but he was also going to tell me what I needed to hear to keep me going, to keep me motivated, to keep me on track and focused. So I literally love Doug. I still would run through a wall for that man. And yeah.
I mean, you were also getting coached by somebody who's in the Hall of Fame now. Obviously, that came later on in his career. And I think after the time that you were there was the time that he was inducted, but also just a coach that has had Olympic experience. What were some of the key things that you learned from him to develop yourself as a player?
Mm, mm, that's such a good question. First thing that come to mind is our we wills. I know you remember the we wills. And it wasn't necessarily just a repetitive, just repeating, we will do this, we will do that. It became like a part of like our basketball soul. It just became a part of us. So the way I still say a lot of the Dougieisms that he would say, like one against none is one against the ultimate one yourself. I swear, I say that every single time I'm working out by myself. Sonya, you going against yourself. You have to go game speed. So everything that he said, it just stuck with you. He didn't say things just trying to make it all complicated or difficult. He said it so it's easy to understand, easy to comprehend, easy to apply. And if you want something and you got the mentors with the knowledge and the wisdom, you just put all that together, and that's basically what it was. I literally Doug can tell me anything, and like I said, I'll run through a wall. That's how much I trusted him.
I mean, and you had such an interesting experience at DePaul too, especially playing during COVID. Obviously, I was there during that time too, playing with
Hmm.
masks, the travel issues. There was just a lot going on. But specifically in that 2022 season when you had made the tournament, I think I got this little thing from the tournament.
Hmm.
um, but when you had gone to the tournament, you're playing Dayton as a senior. Obviously, it was a disappointing loss to Dayton. But in that moment, like senior year during COVID, just so much stress and emotion throughout the season and just external factors. Did you think that was kind of over for you at that time for basketball, or what were your emotions during that?
I was definitely overwhelmed with a bunch of emotions from my season at DePaul and then not knowing what was next. I knew that I wasn't putting the basketball down, but I didn't know exactly what was next, and especially since COVID had kind of took away 2 years of college basketball for me. It was heartbreaking. It was devastating. Like you said, it definitely wasn't the end that we wanted as a team or what I wanted in my career, but I knew it wasn't the end for me. I knew it's just the end of this season of basketball. That's all.
What's something that kept you going during that time? Not even just COVID, but just in general as a basketball player. You kind of touched on Doug saying, it's you versus you at the end of the day. You have a very competitive spirit and nature. So, what is something that has kept you going throughout your obstacles within basketball?
God, that's all I could think about is God. The strength, like I said, the work ethic, the discipline to be able to get up and do what I need to do to keep getting better every day, regardless of how I feel, regardless of disappointments and losses. It was always God. Like that was always the one consistent thing in my life that kept me going, even outside of basketball, but especially with basketball.
I kind of want to talk about your development as a player still because you're great. Like I really always thought that you were just so talented. I mean, you're such a shifty player. You can score at all three levels, but it's just, it seemed like such a natural talent, but also you can see it develop over time. Did you ever feel like, I kind of looked at your video between Texas and DePaul. Did you ever feel that there was like a stagnant period for you, that you weren't developing in the way that you had wanted to?
Actually, yeah, and it was a few periods like that. Especially when I knew I was putting the work in, but it wasn't translating in the game. I'm thinking, what is going on? Like I'm putting the work in, I'm putting the shots up, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but it was always a mental game. Whether I was just overthinking on the floor, whether I was distracted from external forces. Um, so it's easy to, kind of get discouraged by that and think, oh, like I reached my peak or I've reached my prime, whatever it is. But it's just realizing it's a mental game. I know I put the work in. The reps don't lie, consistency and all that plays into confidence. So at the end of the day, Sonya, you put the work in, let it show. Stop overthinking, stop stressing, and just go play ball.
And how much did your faith help you get over some of those mental battles that you had with yourself?
100% every time. Every time. It was, like I said, even if it wasn't necessarily God coming down and walking me through life, it was feeling his presence. It was trusting in him. He blessed me to stay healthy. I'm not injured. I'm not hurt. He blessed me with the mentors, my dad, Doug, Dan, Rolfus, my high school coach. He blessed me with all these people to give me knowledge and to help me through these times too. I didn't have to go through it by myself. When I went through funks where I couldn't make a shot, I'm up in Doug's office. We watching film. Fine, that's your shot. Make it. That's your bread and butter. Make it. So I think it's just God blessing me with all these factors and me just controlling what I can control.
What were those film sessions like with Doug? Did you have a lot of one-on-ones with him, just going, and was that some of it just being you wanting to get that extra mental rep of seeing things, or was it him being like, Sonya, come into my office?
Honestly, it was more him calling me in because I didn't connect the dots that, I had to be a student of the game too. It's not just about putting the physical work in on the court. You got to see, why are you missing these shots? Can you get better shots? It's just the decisions you make during the game come from what you do on the court and the film you watch. You got to be a student of the game. So, yeah, when I would go through one or two games of shooting bad, I'm getting that call from Doug. Hey, come talk to me. Let's watch some film. And every time, I kid you not, every time it's like I bounce back right after that.
So what was it about it? Obviously, you said being a student of the game as well, but how beneficial is it for you to physically see and have somebody explain to you, like, this could have been a better shot, or you had a side here? Like, how does that help you as a player?
Yeah, exactly. It's just connecting the dots about, because when you're in the game and when you're going through the motions and actually playing with defense on you and competition, it's easy to kind of get lost in just kind of going through the motions and just, continuing on the game because you're not trying to keep tripping off the shot you just missed 2 minutes ago. You just kind of keep playing. So being able to sit back and watch film, you can sit on that one shot for 5 minutes and break down, okay, well, you shot this wrong. You didn't flick your wrist, or even it wasn't a good shot. You got two hands in your face, or whatever the case is. But when you can sit back and watch film, and you can break down each category and rewind and rewatch and rewind and rewatch, the mental reps in your head will translate on the court.
And how much of getting this extra help? Obviously, I know Doug is calling you in, but you still have a willingness to show up every day. How much do you have to love this sport in order to keep showing up for yourself, not only yourself but the player next to you, and just wanting to develop? How much do you really have to have a love for it?
It's like unconditional, regardless of how you feel. Bad games, great games. It's really about staying grounded. You're not letting the low lows bring you down, and you're not letting the great games and the highs kind of get you complacent or comfortable. So it you have to love it because it's not easy. It's so much that impacts a person's mental, that impacts their physical performance. So if you don't love it, it's gonna be hard to get in and grind when you don't feel like it. Because motivation, that's a fleeting feeling. It's just like happiness. Motivation, it comes and goes. So are you gonna be consistent? You're gonna be disciplined and do what you're supposed to do. And I think that's where the love of the game comes from. Because if you don't love it, then it's easy to kind of say, I'll work out tomorrow. I'll
Mhm.
work out next week, whatever the case is.
Was there ever a time in your career that you didn't feel the same passion towards basketball as you once did?
I never did. One second, I'm sorry. Oh, thanks. Sorry, that was my dad. um, I've never felt that. I think God has always blessed me to have the love for it and a passion for it. I always loved getting better. I can feel myself getting better. I loved being in the gym. So I never lost the passion. The passion just got stronger. The worse I played, the more passionate I got.
And I want to hint at your dad since he just walked in too. I know your dad has been like your rock through basically everything. You said that he has trained you for years on end. How important was it to have your dad throughout your college career and I mean even your early career as well?
Man, I think that's one of the biggest blessings because I know it's a lot of players out there who have parents but don't have the mentor that I had. My dad has taught me every single thing I know about basketball, the mental part of it. Every shot y'all seen me shoot, I got from my dad. Every dribble, every drill, whatever it is, it's all from my dad. So, and he's so knowledgeable with it too. It's not just that he knows what drills for me to do, he knows what to say to me to get me out that funk. He knows what to say to me to motivate me. He knows how to get on my head without breaking my spirit, without discouraging me. So I think that's one of my biggest blessings and the biggest keys to my success so far is my dad.
What is it like having that sort of model in your life, especially like that's obviously you have coaches that are going to connect with you as well, but having a father that, again, as you mentioned, knows what to say in those moments. How much did you kind of lean on him, even if he wasn't physically like on the court with you as a coach? How much did you lean on some of the things that he told you during a game that you were just like, oh, my dad would tell me to do this, or he would help me get out of this in this way? How much did you lean on him?
It's every single game. I talk to my dad before every single game. Every single game, I call my dad right after the game. And like I said, with him just knowing what to say, not being a yes man, not telling me what I want to hear, but knowing how to approach me, how to talk to me, and how to get me to receive what he's saying. And like I said, his knowledge is just, it's so easy to comprehend and translate to where you can just you can just take what he says and you'd be like, you know what, I could implement this. I'm in over my head, I'm overthinking, or whatever the case is. It's just he knows a lot and he don't hesitate to share. Sometimes he share too much.
What kind of player would you categorize yourself as if you could describe it?
The first thing coming to my mind is ultra competitive. I think that's the most prideful thing I feel about myself. You're not gonna outcompete me. You might be faster than me. You might make more shots than me, but when it comes to competing, head up, 1-on-1, 5-on-5, I don't think I can be outcompeted because it's a mental game. I would rather pass out before I let somebody win.
And where do you think that stems from?
I think comes from God. That's a blessing because I know not everybody kind of has that mindset. But also my dad, I just grew up. He was so competitive. He's more competitive than me. I didn't know that was possible, but that man hates losing more than he likes to win. So I think I just genetically got it from him and a learned behavior type of thing. I just seen his passion and his love for what he does. So yeah.
I want to talk about the first time that you even picked up a basketball. Like, what age were you, and was your dad there when it happened?
Of course, it was in kindergarten. Me and my sister KK. It was kindergarten. It was just for fun. It was at like one of the rec centers, and we had never. My dad didn't put the ball in our hands. We picked it up on our own, and so I think just as kids, we trying out new stuff, and then once we realized, oh, like we kind of good at this, it just carried on.
I feel like I've always viewed you as a player that plays with a lot of emotion.
Hmm.
Do you feel like that is something that works for you as also like a strength and sort of a weakness in a way?
Yes, yes. I think it took a long time to realize how my emotions not only impacted myself but my teammates, the refs, the coaches. It impacted everybody, and not everybody understands my passion for it, and it can come off aggressive or, like you said, emotional. So I think I had to get in check my emotions and how I kind of present it and display it, while still maintaining that fire and that passion that I feel. So yeah, it's definitely a strength and less of a weakness now, but it definitely was a weakness. Yeah.
What was a way that helped you through that, kind of learning to balance that throughout a game?
Coaches, being put in my place, being humbled, and luckily I always had coaches that understood my passion. They never, took it the wrong way, but they still taught me and tried to guide me in a way to just contain my emotions in a way that's still passionate, still myself, but just, kind of in a less aggressive way.
So you spend 4 years at DePaul. You finish as the ninth ranked player in history, in terms of scoring, and then eighth in history in terms of career triples. I got to witness many of those triples, thankfully. And then by the time you get to senior year, you decide to hit the transfer portal. What was the biggest decision behind leaving DePaul?
I think me and Doug, we had a sit down conversation, and I think we just agreed that his plans for DePaul and my plans for my future, he kind of did his part. He lifted me up. He taught me so much in those 4 years, and he got me prepared to that point. And I think it was time for me to take the next step to get me ultimately to the W. So I think it was so hard. I did not want to leave Doug. I didn't want to leave DePaul, but I think it was what was best for me and what was best for Doug and his team for the future.
Did Doug have any departing words for you? Because I know he held you near and dear to his heart. So I'm sure it was
Hmm.
just as difficult for him to see you go. What was
Hmm.
his kind of last words to you or words of encouragement as you moved on?
It was definitely some tears, definitely some emotions, but he just told me that regardless, he knew that I was going to be okay. He knows my competitiveness, my work ethic, and my love for the game. And he said that regardless, he had my back. Whatever I needed, I can call him. If I need help, if I need love, whatever it is, he just knew that I knew that I can count on him. So he sent me off with nothing but blessings, with lessons and just love. So it was hard. Yeah.
So once you hit the transfer portal, I know it probably lit up like a Christmas tree when they saw your name in the portal. So who were some of the original schools that reached out to you, and why did you decide on Texas as the end place?
So obviously Texas had like Baylor, Mizzou, which I was actually really considering Mizzou, NC State. I think those was like the top of the top ones. But when it came down to Texas, it was similar to Doug. I felt nothing but realness from Coach Schaefer. He reminded me of my Southern grandpa, my Southern pawpaw. So, and like I said, it was just real. He was transparent with how I would fit into the program, what it would take. And man, Vic Schaefer, that is a competitor right there. And I don't know, I was just attracted to the whole campus, the team, just everything, the success of the program, the demands. On my visit, this man told me we was gonna have a 6 week period of 6 a.m. conditioning. When I tell you, like, I'm like, for you to say that on my visit and say, "Yup, if you wanna come here, this is what you're gonna have to do." I was like, you know what? This is where I need to be. I need somebody who is gonna be honest and upfront with me, and it's gonna push me and get me up at 6 a.m. to run on the track. Yeah.
I know that had to hurt a little bit when you heard 6 a.m. You're like, whoo, all right,
Yeah. All right.
we're gonna keep it real here for real, okay? But let's hear about that training period then. So obviously you decided to commit. I know that your parents were kind of grilling him with questions too, being like, "All right, keep it real." I
Hmm.
actually want to touch on that really quick. Why does honest again? Because you said in high school people kind of or coaches try and sell you dreams. Why does honesty from a program and a coach resonate with you so much?
I think it just kind of instills a sense of trust. If you can be upfront about the bad stuff or the stuff that, players might not necessarily want to hear, that I just respect you a lot for that, because it's easy to kind of manipulate situations and tell people what they want to hear just to get them to where you want them to be. So not being blindsided or ambushed by 6 a.m. Not so it was just the realness. It was just, I knew exactly what was expected of me, and I knew that I can rise to that occasion. So if you honest and transparent, that instantly like softens my heart and automatically makes me respect you on a different level.
So let's talk about those 6 a.m.s now. I'm not sure if you're a morning person. I feel like you are. And I know you like to I know you like to work hard at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Maybe not a
Mhm.
morning person, but I know at the very least you like to work hard. Um,
Mhm.
but what was the reality for you when, again, obviously you're out of DePaul, you realize with your conversation with Doug that, you guys are both just maybe not going in the same vision. You transferred to Texas that's had a fantastic program for years as well. But what was kind of like the biggest reality or just spark of reality when you got there and you're like, oh, like this is kind of next level than from what I
Mhm.
was even experiencing?
It was the 6 a.m. It was because, Doug was not a fan of early morning anything. If
Mhm.
he could push it back as late as possible, that's what he would do. So I think that, because that really takes a different level of discipline, not just to get up at 6 a.m., but to really put in the work and really get better and be intentional with the 6 a.m. workouts. It was so demanding and it was so intense, but it was so worth it. Like, it wasn't one person on that team that wasn't in shape after that 6 week period. So I think that was like one of the next level realizations. We're like, okay, like I'm here, like we here.
How did you feel yourself physically and maybe even mentally change with those 6 a.m.s to prepare you for season? Because I know that was next level conditioning. Obviously, DePaul
Hmm.
is a smaller school. The training is different. I feel like there's a lot more focus on each individual sport at Texas, given it's a bigger program. So, how
Hmm.
did you feel yourself sort of mentally and physically develop?
See, getting up at 6 a.m. and, like I said, being intentional with the workout, when you kind of build that regimen and that consistency, discipline, it just becomes like a part of you. It becomes who you are as a player. And so when I would step on the court, I knew these players wasn't doing the 6 a.m.s like we was doing. I know they haven't put in the work that we put in. And so just that alone kind of gives an extra fuel to the fire to let us know, like, hey, we here. We didn't put the work in, we ready. So it was obviously physically getting into tip top shape, but it was the mental part of it. I just got up at 6 a.m. for 6 weeks straight. I wish I would lay down and let somebody come in and, yeah.
Is that sort of a mindset that do you feel like was instilled within all the players on the roster at Texas? Like, did you feel like you all as a unit, just had this mindset of like, we put in the work and we're going to dominate as much as possible?
It was kind of something you naturally bought into, because going through those reps, going through those runs, the workouts that we was doing, even if you, excuse my language, even if you half-assed it,
Mhm.
it was so demanding. So I think everybody naturally just, we just made it through the 6 weeks together. We just did this together. Like, we are already individually and as a team, we are already. So I think everybody just, took those 6 a.m.s to the chin, and we did what we had to do.
Obviously, you come from being in cold Chicago, transferring to a much warmer
Mhm.
Texas.
Mhm.
What was just kind of the biggest like culture difference for you in terms of being in the program? Obviously, you're from Missouri, so it's just like there's a little Southern there. I feel like it's a little bit of
Mhm.
a balance between the
Mhm.
Chicago and South. But how was that transition culturally for you?
Culturally, let's talk about the campus. Lincoln Park campus is different from your typical college campus. So walking to class, oh my God, I bought me a scooter. I bought me a sit down scooter.
Not one night, man, stand up.
Right, right. I'm sitting down, yes. But so I think the campus alone, it was so big. And let's go about the facilities. When I was hurt, when I was injured, the resources that I had, I didn't even know those resources existed. So it was just a blessing to be able to see, the next level, what it consists of. It's not just working hard and killing yourself every day in practice. You get the benefits of it too. So The food, money, gotta say that. But yeah, so I think it was a little bit of a culture shock, but it wasn't a bad transition. Like you said, it was a good balance between the South and Chicago and St. Louis. So, but I definitely appreciate the warm weather. Yes.
I'm sure you
Yes.
do, especially right now. It's like 30 degrees outside, which is
Right.
been all week. But I'm sure you can appreciate the warmer weather down there.
Hmm.
But what was it like transitioning into the team too? Obviously, you are somebody that's very competitive. Did you feel like any sort of resistance in the transfer, or did you feel very comfortable naturally with the team as you kind of did at DePaul?
It was zero resistance. That team welcomed me with open arms. It literally felt like a sisterhood as soon as I stepped in. Like each individual player, I loved them, and they just they just helped me in their own ways. Whether it was during practice, whether it was moving my stuff in school and academically, like it was nothing but love. It was nothing but welcome and embracing me. So that made the transition so much. It wasn't even much of a transition. It was almost natural. It was just I came in my first day there. We played pickup, and next thing you know, I'm calling nicknames, and I'm nicknames, and it was yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
So obviously, during your time at Texas, you're able to make the NCAA tournament. Um, so obviously, I naturally have to bring this up since you're playing the second round, you lose to Louisville, handshake lines afterwards. You and Haley has some words to exchange.
Mhm.
I feel like we got Haley's perspective of it, but we never really got to hear from you. What was your
Mhm.
takeaway from that?
Okay, it was a lot of false narratives about me being salty about the loss and all that. But what it really came down to was principle. You can talk your trash on the. I want you to talk your trash. If you hooping and you feeling it and you passionate, do you, baby. But don't disrespect me. She kept calling me the B word, and
Mm.
that's just something I don't play with. I don't play about that. And so when I, grabbed her in a handshake line, I told her, and the camera didn't want to play this part. I told her, I said, great game. I've loved playing against you all these years. You're a great competitor. But if you call me that again, I'm gonna have, you know what I'm saying? It was really just letting her know you can't keep doing this. You can talk your trash and you can do what you got to do, but just be respectful about it. That's all.
And how important is it to maintain that respect as a player? Like, obviously, heat of the moment in terms of games, y'all are all competing against each other. But at the end of the day, how do you still maintain a level of respect so it doesn't get out of hand?
I think it's just natural. Obviously, each individual person is different, but I grew up around people who also didn't play that disrespect.
Hmm.
We'll talk our trash and we'll say what we say and feel how we feel, but it didn't have to become personal. It didn't have to become, like I say, disrespectful. So I think just based on each individual person, what somebody is okay with and what somebody's not okay with. So, like I say, talk your trash. I'm gonna talk my trash too, but in a respectful way.
Talk. I want to hear a little bit more about the trash talking, not in particular with Haley, just trash talking in general. I feel like, especially once you get into like the Angel Reese's and stuff like that, it's become a little bit more well known. Like, hey, like women can trash talk too, and it's just like
Mhm.
it's an aspect of the game. How do you feel about? What's it like for you? What kind of trash talker are you?
I'm a simple trash talker. I'm not big on celebrations after makes and stuff like that. But if I hit a good shot in your face, I'm gonna tell you come here. I'm gonna tell you come here, baby. Like so I think women trash talking is definitely normal when you passionate and you competitive and especially when you hooping and you feeling the game. I think it's so natural and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. And when you can trash talk with the other team and still laugh with the other team, that's the best.
And how do you kind of feel about the platform, especially with as I mentioned, the Angel Reese's, the Caitlin Clarks? How do you feel about the platform that women's basketball has been getting in this past, especially this past year?
It's so beautiful. The growth and seeing how many people just talk about it. I hear something about women's basketball every day, whether it's in person, online, on TikTok, Instagram. You hear women's basketball every day now, and I think it's a blessing for women's basketball to grow. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, the attention that they brought us, and obviously the more money that teams get and programs are getting, the better it is for women's basketball as a whole. So I think that's all we needed. All we needed was the light to be on us. And so we see now when we got the light on us, we see what these women are capable of.
And I want to talk a little bit about your transition out of college. Did you have a sort of moment, or obviously you're still an athlete, but at the end of the day, you're no longer in college. You no longer have the platform that you once had at the time. What was that transition like for you emotionally? Was it difficult, or were you just kind of like, this is just another phase of life?
I'm gonna be honest, it was hell. That was like one of the hardest times of my life because my whole life I've only identified as an athlete, as somebody who was always under a certain schedule, a certain, I always had somebody above me to tell me this what we gonna do today at this time, do this, do that. So to end college and not know what was next, I'm still hurt, I'm still injured. It was hard. It was a mental fight, and I think that it was just confusing. I had so many emotions that I didn't know where they was coming from. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? But it was hard. It was hard to watch women's basketball. I couldn't watch I couldn't watch college basketball for a while after that because it was so triggering, and it was like a bittersweet feeling. Like I love watching basketball, but dang, like my college career is over, and it obviously didn't end the way I wanted it to end. So that was the harder transition, and transitioning into college was out of college. So yeah.
So, what have you been focusing on now? I know last time I had reached out to you, you said that you were getting back training with your dad. Obviously, you were still recovering from your injury. What are you doing right now? You're still training. What is the goal
hmm
basketball wise?
So obviously still training with my dad. Now I'm willing and ready to play whenever. I got my agent Dedrick um lining up some jobs. So I haven't been overseas yet. So I think that'll probably be the next step. But the ultimate goal is the WNBA. That is the ultimate goal. We did try to get into Athletes Unlimited,
Hmm.
but their roster was already full, and that was kind of invitation only
Hmm.
type of thing. So, and then see moments like that where it could be discouraging. That could discourage me and make me think like, oh, like they want somebody over me or they don't want whatever it is. But just knowing that, hey, like it's all in God's timing. I trust God. If it's supposed to be, it's gonna be. But also doing my part and staying ready. If I get a call tomorrow, I'm ready to hop on a plane and go to New York,
Hmm.
go to Belgium, wherever it is. So the ultimate goal definitely is the WNBA. Yes.
Hmm. And kind of, I want to touch on that too. Obviously, people always mention how difficult it is to get into the NBA, small percentages of players that will actually go. But I don't think people understand how difficult it is to get into the WNBA either because there are such limited roster spots. And you
Mhm.
can really be on a team for half the season and then all of a sudden get cut. So,
Mhm.
what has that experience been like for you, especially because, I mean, you could have declared, but again, you were facing injury at the time. But what is the real reality behind trying to get to the professional level even after having a great college career?
I mean, obviously, it's about the skill and who's the best, but it's also just about it's kind of political. Who knows who can know who can get to. It's kind of political. So I think the more people that are up there and that have made it, that kind of increases your chances, and also the schools you come from, the programs you come from. If you kind of come from a program that's top and has always been on top, that's that's a little bit of not an advantage, but it makes it a little bit easier.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say easier because I don't want to make it seem like these all them players work their behinds off to get to where they at.
Mhm.
But I think politics definitely play a big role in it. But yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it's skill and defense.
Mhm.
They Anybody can score, but I've seen a pattern of, oh, this defender automatically had a spot and
Mhm.
started. I've seen people who didn't necessarily get the shine and the fame in college, but they getting playing time and clock in the W because they simply play defense. So
Mhm.
it's 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 a lot. It can be a lot, but I think when you know the right people and you put in the right work, if it's meant to be, it's gonna happen.
So, what are the biggest things that you've been working on with your dad in order to make it to that next level and sort of taking that information of like, okay, obviously you already know you can score, but defensively working on that too? What have
Mhm.
been the key components to your workouts?
Number one, tip top shape. I have never been in this type of shape in my life, and I can see how it translates on every other aspect of my game.
Mm.
Defense, that takes agility drills and acceleration, deceleration, but to be able to do those things without getting tired, without being held back from fatigue. Doug used to always say, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." so,
We love a
um,
Doug quote.
right, him and them Dougieisms, but I think it was just my being in tip top shape of my defense. Because like you said, like scoring, like anybody can score, anybody could put the ball in the basket, but who can lock down when it comes down to it? When the game is on the line, I want to be that player that stick Sonya on her.
Mm.
Sonya gonna get a stop, or Sonya's gonna last 40 minutes without can get a little winded, but I'll be sustained. I'll be able to sustain it and bounce back.
If you were to pitch yourself to the WNBA as to why you should make a roster spot, what would you tell them?
Oh my God, I have never thought about that. Okay. One, do you want a competitor? Do you want a true competitor? Do you want somebody who is coachable, willing to do whatever, put in whatever work, um, step into whatever roles? And I think that's kind of something that I had to adjust to at Texas. I didn't have the same role I did at DePaul, being the main scorer, the number one scorer, whatever. Um, so yeah, just that I'm a lockdown defender in tip top shape. You want to put me in a scoring role, give me the ball, give me the rock, and I'll make it happen. And yeah, just I'm just waiting and ready.
And my last question for you is if you could go back and tell your younger version basketball playing Sonya little self,
Mhm.
if you could give her one piece of advice, what would you tell her?
One, one piece to shut up, shut your mouth, shut up. Like I always have, I've always respected all my coaches. I've been respectful, but I I didn't realize that regardless of how I felt, if I disagreed with something or a shot that they thought was a bad shot for me but was a good shot for, just shut up. This they team, do what they say. And I think that would have just kind of made my journey a little bit more smoother. And even at Texas, I think I could have had a little bit more success if I would have just learned to just shut up. Hmm.
Well, Sonya, I want to thank you so much for being on my very first episode and taking time out of your day to talk to me. And I wish you the best of luck on your journey.
Thank you, babe. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Of course.